might be a tougher fight for Khamzat than I may have imagined. When Sean Strickland goes into Houston to take on Fluffy Hernandez, not only does he win the fight, he's saying things that are so crazy and out there that everybody's paying attention.
Chimaev's a bully. I made him quit training.
He says some wild stuff, and then Khamzat starts to reply. Watching him against Fluffy, Sean looks so good. If that version showed up, that might be a tougher fight for Khamzat than I may have imagined. We're going to need some extra security for this fight.
And of course, we have a title fight coming up with Chimaev making that first title defense against Sean Strickland in Newark. You've shared the cage with Strickland before. How big of a dog is he in this fight in your eyes? Can he upset the apple cart?
I think he can if it goes to the later rounds and he doesn't get taken down. But again, Chimaev is a bat out of hell. He's a guy that comes aggressively straight away, and Strickland can match that probably, but we'll see. And they've trained together, so this is probably something that happened in the gym that we are not privy to. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But I look forward to watching it and reacting to it on YouTube.
You $50K to bet right now. Khamzat versus Strickland. Who you betting?
Khamzat. I think Sean Strickland is a better wrestler than DDP, and he got the best gas tank I ever seen. I would be rooting for Strickland in this fight, but I just think that Khamzat just relentless on his wrestling. Since he came down to train with Armin, I think that changed that cardio and stuff now. If he looks in a way like he looked his last fight, I think he's going to improve on that. He's going to take Strickland to deep water and ground and pound out another victory. So if I'm betting, I would put my money on Khamzat.
Obviously, big opportunity against Chimaev coming up here pretty soon. What do you make of that fight? Obviously, styles make fights. It's going to be, I think, a different fight than what we saw against Chimaev and Dricus Duplessis. How do you see that fight unfolding?
Nah, I don't know. I didn't really think too much about it, but I'm happy that Sean Strickland's getting the opportunity. I'm Team USA still. And yeah, I hope he wins. I think he's got a good opportunity. I think he's got good takedown defense. I think he's got good get-ups. I think he's got a real opportunity to win. So best of luck to Sean Strickland, and I hope he wins.
By the way, Khamzat, what do you think about Khamzat?
He's a great fighter.
Yeah.
He's a good fighter. Yeah.
Who do you think if him and Strickland fight, who do you think wins?
Oh, Khamzat.
I think Sean wins that.
Yeah? You think so?
Yeah, I do. I want him to.
Strickland will probably get by Khamzat. He called him a terrorist.
Go to leg.
I can't wait for Khamzat versus Strickland.
Oh, how good did he look against Fluffy?
Strickland's going to get taken down, but he's so well versed on getting up in his cardio. That third, fourth, and fifth round, if he keeps getting up, defend the submissions, that's when it gets interesting.
He's so hard to hit. He does so many sneaky things on the feet.
No way Khamzat's going to stand with him. He's going to try to take him down.
Khamzat can strike too, though. Did you see the video of Khamzat striking with Khalil?
No way he's going to stand with him.
Here's why he can try to stand with Strickland, because he's not a knockout artist.
Gilbert dropped him.
So now all of a sudden we've got Chimaev versus Strickland. Did you guys see the odds? My partners right now, DraftKings, 6-1. 6-1 is what they are favoring Chimaev to beat Strickland. 2-1 when the fight opened, Chimaev versus Dricus. When that bell rang, they were 2-1. 6-1 is what Izzy Adesanya was favored the night he fought Sean Strickland. 3-1 is what Islam was the night that he beat Charles Oliveira, right? And if you remember that point in time, nobody believed that Islam wasn't walking out there with the belt. Nobody believed that Charles had what it took to stand up to Islam. And with that said, it got to 3-1. So 3-1 doesn't just represent a confidence. It's a confidence in a domination. 3-1 is essentially saying, our guy, our 3-1 favorite, is going to finish your guy. This is 6-1. This is 6-1 with common opponent.
Messed up to Imavov, look at his resume or whatever. And on every one, I responded, hey guys, who was his last loss though? Like, if your last loss is to a guy who's coming off of a performance like that against somebody who we all agreed was one fight away from the title in Fluffy Hernandez, you go out there and finish him like that, jump on the mic. How do you not? Especially for a company starving for an American champion.
He lost to Strickland in 2023, November, January, sorry. So 3 years ago.
I think
he's on a five-fight win streak, and he beat Izzy. That was sensational. Second round knockout, right hand over the top against Borralho. Impressive victory, but not as good as Sean going out there and beating the brakes and finishing Fluffy. And then on the microphone as well, the way that he acted, then with the backstory and the beef and the way that, these guys are going to shit talk it up. Sean Strickland's not going to back down. People talk about wanting to see rivalries and real characters. Well, my God, you have got it here, 100%. Yeah. But the big question is, can he stop the takedowns? Can he take the shots from Khamzat? Because he's got knockout power as well. He's not just a wrestler.
When you hear this kind of breakdown from Joe Rogan, it becomes even clearer why this fight is so difficult to call. There is nothing simple about Sean Strickland once you start paying attention to the details of how he fights. On the surface, some people see a straightforward striker with a jab and forward pressure, but the deeper you go, the more layers start to show up. His style has moving parts that are easy to miss if you only look at the action in quick highlights or short clips. Strickland's technique is built around constant movement, and that movement does more than help him stay active. It helps him control range, disrupt timing, and make opponents work far harder than they want to. He does not just walk forward for the sake of pressure. He moves with purpose, and that steady pressure can slowly start closing space without giving away the kind of openings that reckless pressure fighters often leave behind. That is one of the reasons he can make opponents feel crowded even when the exchanges themselves do not always look wild. A huge part of that style is his distance management. Strickland has a feel for where he needs to be, when he should step in, and when he should slightly shift out of danger while still staying close enough to keep his opponent uncomfortable. He is not only trying to land, he is trying to make the other man second guess his choices. He wants them thinking, hesitating, resetting, and losing confidence. That kind of control does not always show up as flashy offense, but it can shape the whole fight. Then there is the cardio, and this matters a lot in a matchup like this. Strickland has built a reputation around endless sparring and a style that allows him to keep a hard pace without fading quickly. That engine is one of the biggest reasons people give him a real chance here. He can stay in your face, stay on balance, and keep making you deal with him for longer than many fighters want to. He has a way of turning the fight into a steady grind, and that kind of pressure becomes more dangerous when it does not disappear after a few explosive moments. That is also why he has been able to make dangerous opponents look worse than expected. Even a fighter like Anthony Hernandez has looked outmatched under that kind of pace and pressure. It is not always because Strickland overwhelms people with one single weapon, and it is often because the total package starts adding up. The movement, the jab, the distance control, the conditioning, and the constant pressure all begin stacking on top of each other until the opponent is fighting both Strickland and the pace of the fight itself. Another detail that keeps coming up is his lead leg. For many fighters, that kind of target can be a real weakness, especially against opponents who are smart enough to attack it consistently. That would normally be a major concern. But Strickland has his own way of dealing with that threat, and that is part of what makes his style unusual. Instead of accepting damage there, he uses clever defensive habits to reduce it, including lifting the leg to take away the target and avoid clean impact. It is not a random trick. It is something he uses with purpose, and it has been explained effectively by Alex Pereira, which gives even more weight to that point. That small defensive adjustment says a lot about Strickland as a fighter. He may not always look flashy, but he makes practical choices inside the fight. He understands how to protect weaknesses without giving up the rest of his game. He finds ways to keep doing what he wants to do, even when opponents are trying to attack the spots people assume are available. That is one more reason this matchup is not easy to predict with confidence. So when Rogan talks through this kind of breakdown, it helps explain why Strickland is such a difficult opponent to figure out. He is not simply durable. He is not simply tough. He is not just a guy with a jab. His style is built on motion, range, pressure, conditioning, and small defensive details that can change how a fight unfolds over time. That is why people keep circling back to the same point. If Chimaev cannot completely break that structure early, then Sean's style could become a serious issue as the fight keeps moving forward.
You have distance, timing, pattern recognition. You're constantly in there, moving around.
Right.
It's like, and then there's also the cardio that comes from sparring.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
Like, because his cardio is almost entirely based on sparring. And, man, that motherfucker doesn't get tired in there.
Right.
And the Fluffy fight was like, I thought Fluffy was going to be a problem. I'm like, Fluffy's really good, man. You think he submitted Adolfo Vieira. He's got all this fucking crazy cardio. He puts a pace on guys. And Strickland made it look like he just did not belong in there.
He's so heavy on that front foot, though. I can't believe guys aren't smashing that calf, man.
I know. Well, he's hard to hit, man. And he also knows how to do that fucking that hacky sack thing where, you know, like you're bending your knee upwards. You know what I mean?
To check it?
Yeah. Well, you don't even check it. You just kind of like relax your leg and lift it up. You know who showed me that is Alex Pereira. He's like, instead of checking it, it was like, if you check.
When you add Din Thomas to the conversation, the matchup becomes even more fascinating. His breakdown brings another layer to the debate because it pushes people to look beyond the first impression of dominance and ask a harder question. Not just whether Khamzat Chimaev is dangerous, because everybody knows he is, but whether Sean Strickland's specific style creates problems that do not go away just because Chimaev is the more explosive force on paper. Chimaev is still widely viewed as the dominant fighter in this matchup, and that reputation is not there by accident. A lot of people still see him as the man most likely to impose himself, especially in the early part of the fight. That remains the central fear for anyone picking against him. But Din Thomas points towards something important, and it changes how the fight looks when you really think it through. The argument is not that Strickland needs to become a totally different fighter to win. The argument is that his normal style may already contain the exact kinds of problems that can make this a very uncomfortable fight for Chimaev. That matters because some matchups only work if one fighter completely changes who he is. This one does not appear to fit that pattern. Strickland's takedown defense, his awkward forward pressure, and his non-stop pace are already core parts of his game. He does not need a total rebuild to make those things matter here. He does not need to fight in a way that feels foreign to him. He simply needs those same tools to hold up under the pressure long enough for them to start having an effect. The takedown defense is one of the first pieces people point to, and for good reason. Against a fighter like Chimaev, you do not have to stop every attempt in a perfect, clean way to stay alive in the fight. Sometimes surviving the first layer matters most. Sometimes making the wrestler work, forcing effort, forcing adjustment, and forcing more attempts can shift the fight little by little. Strickland's ability to resist, react, and stay upright when it counts could become one of the hidden keys to the whole matchup. Then there is the pressure, and not the neat textbook kind. Now, Strickland applies a strange kind of forward pressure that can feel awkward, irritating, and draining. It is not always dramatic. It is not always explosive, but it can break rhythm, crowd decisions, and make a clean game plan feel messy. Against a fighter who wants to explode into control early, that awkwardness could matter more than people expect. It can turn clean sequences into scrambles, and scrambles can completely change the feel of a fight. That is another part Din Thomas touches on, the possibility of forcing those scrambles. If Strickland can survive the early storm, if he can stay calm in those dangerous moments and avoid getting locked into the kind of control Chimaev wants, then the fight may begin slipping into a less predictable place. Every scramble creates movement, and every movement creates a new decision. The cleaner the fight is for Chimaev, the better it probably is for him early. The messier it becomes, the more room there may be for Strickland to start finding his spot. And once that begins, other parts of Strickland's game start becoming more relevant. His jab can begin setting the tone. His front kicks can start building a pattern. His pressure can stop looking like survival and start looking like control. The pace can shift. The exchanges can stretch out. The danger may still be there, but the structure of the fight becomes something very different from the version many people are picturing in their heads right now. That is really the heart of the argument. The most common expectation is that this fight will be decided by what Chimaev does early, and there is good reason for that expectation. But Din Thomas points to another possibility. He points to a version of the fight where Strickland absorbs the early heat, forces ugly transitions, stays active, and slowly moves the action into rounds and sequences that feel less and less comfortable for Chimaev. That kind of drift would not happen all at once. It would build over time. But if it starts happening, the fight could look very different from what most people expected when the matchup was first announced. That is why this breakdown adds so much intrigue. It is not just praise for one fighter or criticism of the other. It is a reminder that style mattered, pacing mattered, and survival in the early moments can change the whole story of a fight. Chimaev may still be the man many see as the dominant force, but there is a real and serious case that Strickland's style is naturally built to create problems, especially if he can turn the fight from an early storm into a long, uncomfortable grind.
Khamzat. By the way, that Sean Strickland-Khamzat fight, who do you think is going to win that one? Because obviously a lot of people are picking Khamzat. He's just so dominant, but out of all the options, Sean does have great wrestling takedown defense, and also he's got great shots to the body, and he's very awkward to fight. Good cardio too.
Yeah, I think honestly, if you were to ask me before the Fluffy fight,
yeah,
I would have said there's no way. I think Sean's great, but he's just going to be another victim for Khamzat. But after watching him fight Fluffy up close and personal, again, cage side, man, I think Sean could pull this off, man. I'm actually thinking if that Sean Strickland shows up, I think he pulls this off, man. I think he defends a couple shots. He will get taken down, but I think he gets back to his feet. And then if he can get his jab going, his jab and those teep kicks going, because what Sean does well naturally is already a good defense towards a guy like Khamzat. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's got to do anything different. Just what he does good naturally is already a good start for beating a guy like Khamzat. So him adding on to that, I think, man, the guy who fought Fluffy shows up, he beats.
Now it comes down to you. How do you see this fight playing out? Do you think Khamzat Chimaev's aggression and grappling take over early? Or do you believe Sean Strickland's jab, pressure, and toughness start changing the fight as the rounds go on? Drop your prediction in the comments below, share who you think has the edge and why, and hit subscribe so you do not miss any of the latest updates.